should probably give the map a second to load. Oh my god, man. Oh wait, is this hardcore? No, it isn't. Oh, I should have done it on a different server, but I'll put a picture of Behemoths and elite classes on my project. So Behemoths. Now, basically, if your team is losing, or if your team's getting crushed in an operations match, you're gonna get a Behemoth. Now, depends on the map, you'll get a Behemoth. Now, there is one DLC Behemoth, and I'll get into that later. Behemoths are super vehicles.
Is available near your location.
And these super vehicles can turn the tide. Like, if your team is losing, sometimes your team will start winning. But they're really hard to take down. Now, I'm going to get into the one that I'm in right now, but it's destroyed. This is the airship Behemoth. It drops bombs, has 2 giant turret areas. Now, this one's collapsed, but this is what you would see on one if it wasn't collapsed. It would be all together. Now, this is exactly the turret it has on it when it's flying around. And, then on this map, another Behemoth spawns. It's called the Armored Train. Now, there are technically 2 Armored Trains. So one is the DLC Armored Train. It has a snowplow on it. It's for the Russian DLC. That's why it has snowplow on it. Now, as for, what are the other ones? Hold on. Yeah, then there's the normal armor train. It basically, they both have cannons on the front. The only difference between the two is one has a snowplow and one doesn't. And then there's the dreadnoughts. Now, it's usually on areas that have ocean, like a huge ocean. And if I were to be on Suez right now, there would be a destroyed dreadnought off in the distance, but I'm not. Now, they're doing something really cool with the upcoming DLC. It's a naval battle DLC. And one of the maps, it was really bad, but then the community told them that they should make it more naval battle. So now, I can't talk, man. Hold on, ping. Alright, so the naval battles, they wanted more ships. Like, at the moment, there was only 1 destroyer and 1 destroyer. So now, the dreadnought is going to play a bigger role. They brought it up to 2 destroyers. And I wish I could show you the destroyer. I'll probably make another video. I forgot to mention that in my last one. In my last video on vehicle, or whatever. The dreadnought's a giant battleship, and the only difference with the destroyer, it's a normal vehicle. It's like driving a tank on the ocean. The destroyer's a smaller dreadnought. Now, both teams at the start of the round on, I think it's the Zeebrugge grade. The Zeebrugge grade, or it's the Heligoland Bite. Both teams are gonna start off with 1 dreadnought each, right when the round starts, and each team is gonna have 2 destroyers and a bunch of torpedo boats. And that's gonna be awesome. Now, if you lose your dreadnought in that match, you're gonna immediately get another one if you're losing. But if you still have one and you're still losing, you have to wait for your other dreadnought to blow up. You can't have 2 dreadnoughts at once. And that's the cool thing about the dreadnought is, I think the dreadnought's the best behemoth out of, well, the second best, because, I mean, it can't really go around anywhere. That's the thing about the next behemoth I'm about to get into. The trains can only stay on railroads. Airship can only stay in the air. Which, oh, by the way, they're making a smaller airship. It's basically going to replace, like, the helicopters, I would say, for the older battlefields that are in Modern Warfare. It's going to be a C-class airship. It's smaller. It has a cannon on the front. It's really cool looking. I haven't been able to use one yet because they haven't released them out to the Xbox One CTE. But anyways, the dreadnought is limited to the sea. It has really cool aiming area where you can just aim artillery and just get a bunch of kills. I knew someone that went 106-2 just doing that one round. He just sat there and just demolished the other team. Now I'm gonna get into the DLC one. Now the DLC one has the what is it? Oh yeah, it's basically like the FT light tank, but only 10 were made in real life. It's called the Char 2C. It has 2 turrets. It weighs as much as an M1 Abram, which is give me a second for the ping. All right, yeah, which weighs as much as the M1 Abram, and that's the tank the Americans use today, that our army uses. It was really huge. Even though only 10 were made, the French ordered like around 10,000 to be made. They only made 10. They weren't used in World War I, but they were still made during World War I, so that's why they included them. Now, a little fun fact about them is that the Germans almost took all of them. They were only used for propaganda in World War II. They weren't used for anything else. The French didn't have a lot of stuff in World War II. They were still using the FT light tank, which was a World War I tank. So it was old and it was unreliable. It didn't have as better as armor as the tanks in World War II. Anyways, they say that one survived, the Germans captured it, and then they were studying it somewhere in the middle of East Germany, and I think they were studying it to make the Lion tank, which was a prototype that was never made. It was supposed to be like the Tiger tank for the Panzer Division. They say that after when the Cold War began, the Russians took it, but no one knows. I'm pretty sure the French even asked the Russians if they knew where it was, but I don't think they're. What else about the tank? Well, in this one it has a 92 on it. Now the 10 Char 2Cs that were made were named after French provinces. The one with 92 on it in the game, its name is Picard or Picardy, something like that. And that's Behemoths. Now let's get into elite classes. I'll show a video of elite classes just with the vehicles. Now, or I might just make a separate thing called Super Behemoths and elite classes. This is the Tank Hunter class, and I think you know what that is. It basically has a giant tank rifle that packs the same amount of punch as an anti-tank shell firing out of a tank. Now he also has a shotgun, a periscope to spot people, and anti-tank grenades and 3 grenades. Then there's 2 sentries, basically super armored supports. They have bulletproof armor. Their weakness is gas and fire because they're gonna get all heat up, and they can't put a gas mask on because they have a giant bulletproof helmet on. There's 2 that I know of. One has a giant machine gun, and the other one has something called the Velar Perosa, and that's basically like the Automatico. In real life, the Velar Perosa was an anti-aircraft thing. It had 2 magazines on it, and I think it did 900 rounds per minute, just like the Automatico, but I'm not sure. I think it had double the capacity of the Automatico, so I'm going to go with it had 1,800 rounds per minute, technically, I would say, because it's double. Now there's the flamethrower. The flame trooper, has a flamethrower, and he's immune to incendiary grenades and gas grenades. And then there's the DLC elite classes. Now for the French DLC, they had the trench raider. Now he's armored, but not as heavily armored as the other ones. Now he has a melee club and a bunch of grenades, and he is the only elite class that can heal himself. Most other elite classes have to depend on medics to heal themselves, or they have to wait 2 minutes to heal themselves. Now, the trench raider has a club that one-shots people. Now that cannot be used for any other infantry. Now the tank hunter, the Valparaiso, the tank Gewehr is the tank hunter's thing, by the way. All the main weapons cannot be used by normal infantry. And once an elite class dies, you cannot pick up their kit. And back to normal things. I can't talk, I'm tired, I just woke up, sorry. Trench Raider has a number 6 shooter revolver as its secondary. Now, I'm going to get into the newest one, the Infiltrator. Now, this has become one of my favorite elite classes to use when I play on the new Turning Tides DLC at Gallipoli. He has a flare. Now, this is no normal flare, it just spots people in the game. They calls in Dreadnought artillery strikes. And just like the Saint Shaman has air artillery that just blows up in the air. Now this one blows up in the ground, like right when it hits the ground, so it does more damage, basically. He doesn't have any armor, so he has like barely any, he has the same amount of health as a normal infantry, basically. He can die quicker. But a good thing about him, since he has no armor, he can run faster than normal infantry. And he also has a spawn beacon he can place. And the funnest thing about him, they made a weapon. Now this is a real weapon. Now, I talked about the Martini Henry and the weapon thing. This was an actual weapon made, but it wasn't used in World War I. It was the Martini Henry grenade launcher. Now, you put a Martini Henry round in it, and they basically cut off the rifle end and put a giant cannon on it. You would shoot the Martini Henry round. It would cause the grenade to launch out, and it one-shots everything. I one-shot a Flame Trooper Elite class with it on one map. It was amazing. Now, the grenades blow up on impact. It's really fun to use. And then his secondary is like, what is it? His secondary is a double sawed-off shotgun, just like Tank Hunter. That's elite classes, and Behemoths. I'll show you pictures of them on the project. I won't show on Airship one, of course. And I already showed the charts you see on my project, so there's that. Now that's about it for both vehicles and infantry. Now, well, I'll see you later.